So, does everybody understand what we're going to do then from here on out? What we're going to try to do? See if we can actually. See if we can actually get through this material. Okay, so inventories, huh? 6 different types. This is ridiculous to them. I think it's ridiculous too. I think there should at most be 3, probably 2. But we got them. They're there. You need to understand what they are because you'll run across them. Certainly need to understand the difference between periodic versus perpetual, and you need to understand the difference between LIFO, and average, right? You guys read about this stuff, okay? And then for next time, we're doing what? The next chapter, right? You guys will have it read. I got a new syllabus, guys, and I need your quiz 6. All right. So, these 6 methods. And you guys pull out the old quiz yet? The one from the summer before last, whatever. Right? Because there are a number of problems on there from inventory. Of course, you have to have to okay? There's lots of problems, right? Know how to do those. Know how to do the ones in the book, of course. We'll do a few examples. And then that review session, of course, we'll do them some more. Okay, anyway, so the 3 different methods we got are FIFO, LIFO, and average, right? And then the 2 types of accounting for it on all 3 of these, 2 types of accounting for it are perpetual, which you guys already know, and, periodic, okay, which is new to you. But here's the cool thing is periodic is easier than perpetual. Perpetual is actually harder, okay? So you know how to do the accounting for perpetual already. What we do with perpetual is we perpetually keep track of how much inventory we have. It's easy to remember, right? We always know how much inventory we have. What do we do when we buy inventory? Debit what? Money done all along. Debit an asset named inventory. Debit inventory, credit usually accounts payable. You buy an account, right? Which is almost always the case. Or it might be credit cash, right? You gave cash to the end. Got the idea? What do you do when you sell it? For the sales price, you debit either accounts receivable or cash, depending on whether it's a credit sale or a cash sale, right? And you credit sales, don't you? That's for the sales price. What do you do about the cost? Credit inventory, because you don't have it anymore, right, guys? And debit what? What do you do with the cost of the goods you sold? I think you debit cost of goods sold, which is an expense account, right? So your sales less your cost of goods sold is gross profit. Come on, guys, wake up. You had 5 days off. Not really, but yeah, okay. I hope you study. You didn't just drink the whole time, did you? You drink it all. Good. That's why I think somebody who doesn't drink at all. Yeah, you drink. I told the other class that I was fine for the holiday because I only live in short distance from the liquor store. So if I get snowed in, yeah, well, no. Sort of kidding. Yeah, kidding about that. Yeah. I wouldn't encourage you guys to drink. They're mostly underage, or all underage, maybe. I don't know. Anybody over 21? So you and I are the only ones that have ever had alcohol. Yeah. We shouldn't tell them about it. It's terrible stuff. Bad. Devil's brew. Right, there you go. That's good. So anyway, if you have a moral objection to drinking or a religious objection to drinking, that's really good because you're probably a lot richer because you don't drink. Right? Healthier. You know what's funny about that is I actually saw a study, I don't know if it's really true or not, but it's kind of a nice thing to think, that people who drink are actually richer than people who don't. Not people who drink a lot. Being alcoholic together is not usually richer. So be careful. Don't do that. Yeah, but the people who actually drink are a little wealthier than people who don't. I don't know. Isn't that weird? Why would that be true? They're spending money. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so. Oh, well. What does that have to do with inventory? No. Okay, anyway, but you worked in this a bit, I hope, right? You actually spent some time on it, thought about it, looked at it. Okay, anyway. So perpetual then, when we buy stuff, it's debit inventory. When we sell stuff, it's credit inventory. Right, guys? Debit cost of goods sold, credit inventory. Okay, so we constantly keep track of how much inventory we have. That's it. But do you think you still know how much inventory you have? You don't just debit the inventory account in the general ledger, right? And therefore increase it on the balance sheet. And credit the inventory account in the general ledger and therefore reduce it on the balance sheet. You don't just do that. You have inventory records where you keep track of all your different inventory items. It's magic for Walmart. They know how much they have of every single one of the junk garbage they sell in their stores, right? And the good stuff too, right? They know how much they have of all of it. Every time something comes into their store, what do? They add it, right? Right? Do what?
Stock locate.
Stock locate, they call it. You work for Walmart.
I work for Sears.
For Sears, same thing. Okay. So what you do is every time something comes in, if it comes in a truck and they're on pallets, it's all shrink wrapped. There's a barcode on top, huh? Right in the shrink wrap nowadays. Used to be a piece of paper. Sometimes still a piece of paper. Okay? With the barcode on it. No kidding. And when you drive in the truck, guess what? It scans it. And it updates your inventory for everything that came in. It debits inventory and it credits accounts payable. Not kidding. And then what happens every time you take something out of Sears? Just like that.
It's taken off and inventory gets changed.
Yeah. Every time they scan something, when you walk out with something, right? They scan it, don't they? You know what they do? They debit cash and they credit sales. Yeah. And that's their sales price. And for the cost, they debit cost of goods sold and they credit inventory. And they update the inventory. And then they automatically order new stuff to put on the shelf. Is it kind of important to be careful about this inventory, seeing as you're going to automatically order new stuff? Oh, by the way, have you ever seen somebody, in a convenience store grab a six-pack of beer or anything and run out with it, steal it? Have you ever experienced that? This does happen. I've seen people do that. Okay, it does happen. Do you suppose they ever stop by the checkout stand and say, oh, I'm stealing a six-pack of beer? Be sure to update your inventory records? Never happens, right? Never happens. The theft disappears and does not get into your inventory record. True? Okay? Everybody agree with this? So are the perpetual records going to be right? I don't know. How about forklift driver running over some boxes of product? By mistake. They always report it to their supervisor, right? Actually, if the supervisor is really good and the company's well run, they do, right? Because they don't get fired for doing it. You want to encourage them to do everything right, proper training and all that stuff. But if they make a mistake, they make a mistake, right? Okay. But, human nature being what it is, you think ever somebody would just pick up that damaged product and throw it in the dumpster and not report it? Sure. Oh, that doesn't get the accounting record either. You got the idea? So a whole bunch of you, most of you, are not going to be accountants. Is it important to keep track of how much stuff you have? What happens if you don't have stuff? Let me give you a story on this one. They built this new Kmart store many years ago in Terre Haute, Indiana. It was a super Kmart. You guys remember Kmart? Anybody ever been in a Kmart? How many of you been in a Walmart? They're direct competitors. Wow. Most of you don't even know what a Kmart is. That's because they all went broke, right? Companies just really in trouble. Here's one of the reasons. They had a lot of reasons, but here's one of the reasons. They opened this new Kmart, and it's Terre Haute, Indiana, so this is a really big deal. How many of you from small towns? And when they opened the Walmart, right, it's a big social event. But anyway, Terre Haute's kind of like that, even though it's not real small. But people lined up to go into Kmart. So anyway, like 3 months later or something, my wife and I were driving by there, and she says, let's go in and see what this is like. I said, oh, God, it's a Kmart. I've been in a Kmart before. But anyway, we went in. It was shiny and new and everything. But about a third of their shelves are empty already. Ever happen to Sears? Not often. It does sometimes. But you don't want it. You don't want it, right? Anyway, shelves empty. And other shelves just overflowing with stuff. A whole bunch of some products, none of others, right? And all the names of the products are there. So anyway, my wife and I got these fake juice things, Our kids were still young, so it was mostly sugar, right? Sugar water colored with fruit flavoring in it. Anyway, so we got 10 different types, right? Different flavors or something. And we're going through the check stand. And the young woman at the check stand puts in the number 10, right, into the cash register and scans one of them. What has she just done? She reduced the inventory by 10 of those, right? And maybe we bought one or two of them, right? And then what? Did charge me the right amount? I'm happy.
She didn't. She bought the other ones. She didn't.
Yeah, I took ones away from the store. I bought them, took them out of the store, and she didn't reduce the inventory, did she? What would she do the inventory, the one that she did scan? Even though I only bought one of them maybe, she took 10 out. You wonder why their shelves are empty? Some of them, and others are overflowing. Because the computer's automatically saying, oh, let's order these things, and they're in a big rush, right, to run the store because they got it open and everything, right? But you know what? It wasn't her fault. I'm telling my students right after this, and the next day, I'm telling my students about how horrible the inventory control was, right? Just unbelievable. And one of the young women who sits in my classroom worked for it. She says, I'm a catechist, I'm a checker there. And I says, cashier. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. She says, it's not insulting, it's what they told us to do. They told us to get people through the check stand as fast as we possibly can by any means that we can to make customers happy. And we get paid more if we're faster. So management decided to do this to themselves, right? I guess. Do you have to be careful when you're managing, you guys? Was anybody paying any attention? Now I can see the mistake being made in the first place. But might you start noticing if some shelves are empty and others are full? They just probably thought stuff was being slow getting delivered, huh? I don't know what they thought. They weren't thinking clearly. Okay? So is this stuff important to you? Only if you want to have customers. It's not a problem. What happens if you go to Kroger and they don't have any milk? You went there for all kinds of stuff, but they don't have milk. And you have children that have to have milk. I don't drink milk, but anyway. You have children that have to have milk. They drink milk, right? They should. Okay? What happens if the store doesn't have milk once? I'll go to another store, okay. What if the second time you go back and they don't have milk at the store? I'm not going to waste my time going to the store. They don't have milk. Do you buy anything else there? No, it was all the same. Got the idea? You don't want to run out of things, okay? By the way, you want to have so much stuff that you never sell it? No. You want to control your inventory, don't you? I don't want too much stuff. I don't want too little stuff. I want all the right stuff. I want when you come in, I want what you're going to buy to have just been delivered, and then I hand it to you and you leave with it. That's what I want. It's called just in time. It's hard to get, right? But we get as close as we can as possible. No extra inventory. Why don't you want extra inventory? What happens to a car dealer when they have, 10 of exactly the same car left? Same color, same options on it, everything. Exactly the same car. At the end of the year, the new models come in and they have 10 of the same. You guys ever seen my little Miata? It's all beat up out there. It's a 2000, so it's kind of old now, 2015, and it's only got 70,000 miles on it or something, right? I only go about 15 miles a year. That was one of those cars. They had 7 or 8 of them, exactly the same, sitting on the lot. I paid less than 2/3 of the sticker price. Why? They had to get rid of it. They were angry at it, supposedly. Do you want to sell it or not? You're not going to sell that. But you buy it yourself, right? Nobody's going to buy them. Nobody's going to buy all of those, right? If I could have used a different color, it's a really ugly thing, right? And it's turquoise color. I could have had a couple thousand less. My wife would build it. It cost me a couple thousand. That was silver. She didn't want silver either. She wanted green. I'd had to buy a new one for $10,000 more, right? So, anyway. So do you want to get rid of your inventory? Sure, right? But do you want to run out? No. So this is what you're trying to do. So those of you who become managers that are working in production, right? That's the game. Yeah, that's what you do. Okay, anyway. So what's FIFO? Oh, I did perpetual. Let's do periodic. One second. Periodic. What does periodic mean? I do not record it into inventory when it comes in. So let's do this. Perpetual, what does it look like? I have an inventory account. Beginning inventory is in here. When I buy stuff, my purchases go in here. You guys already knew this, right? And my cost of goods sold come out of here, right? And I have a cost of goods sold account, and that gives me ending. Does everybody agree with all that? You know this already, don't you? We've been doing it all along, haven't we? That's perpetual. What does periodic look like? I still have an inventory account, but it's only going to have the beginning balance in it. And instead of having cost of goods sold, I have an account named what? Purchases. Oh, that's one of those temporary accounts, income statement accounts, right? Okay, nominal account. I'm going to have purchases. So all my purchases, guess what? They go into purchases, debit purchases. And what do I do when I sell something? I still record the debit to cash, right, and the credit to sales, or debit accounts receivable credit sales for the sales price. But what about cost of goods sold? Listen to this carefully. I don't record it at all. I don't keep track of it. Everybody got it? Now here's a real advantage for perpetual. With perpetual, I always know how much inventory I have, or at least I have an estimate of it, right? Because every time I buy something, what do? I debit inventory. Every time I sell something, what do? I credit inventory for the cost, right? Debit cost of goods sold, credit inventory. I do that, don't I? So I always have an estimate of my ending inventory. Is that estimate always right? No, we already talked about things being stolen, being damaged, just being lost, not recording things right. Have you ever gone to a clothing store and you saw something you liked, but then they didn't have your size? And there's a clothing store across town, the same company, right? They got another one in another mall, right? And they look at the computer and they say, oh, they have your size there. So you immediately jump in your car and drive across town and get it, don't you? No, you don't. What do you have them do? Would you call first? Well, maybe ship it, yeah. And that way you can make sure they have it. But call first. Before I go across it, you just have to have it right? You have a call first to make sure it's really on the rack? Sure. Why would you do that? Because their inventory records might be screwed up, right, guys? So we have an idea what we have, but it might not be exactly right, huh? Okay, try to keep it as accurate as you possibly can. Okay? I like that. Yeah, ship them. I'm not going. Yeah. I don't know why there are stores. Now there's Amazon. Why are there stores? You can buy, you can directly buy from Macy's without going to Macy's. You can directly buy from Sears without going to Sears. You never have to go to a store. Why do we go? I don't know why we go. I don't, but you guys might go to stores. I used to at Christmas prove to my wife that I loved her by going to the store with her just at Christmas, but not anymore. I admit it, I go to food stores sometimes if I'm hungry. Yeah. And liquor stores, yeah. That's good. Wine stores. Okay, anyway. So, what happens though with, does this give you better control by what you think? You have an idea what your inventory is all the time? Sure, right? You run your business better. Okay, how about periodic what happens? I have the beginning down and it just stays there all year. And then at the end of and I keep all the purchases in this purchases account. So I know what I bought, I know what I started with. I can take what I started with and add what I bought, and that'll tell me what's available. But do I know cost of goods sold? No. Got it? How do you get cost of goods sold? You count the inventory, right? And adjust the inventory at the end to the ending, and you compute cost of goods sold by taking the beginning inventory plus the purchases available, subtracting the ending, and you get cost of goods sold. Why would anybody do this? Let me tell you this. They didn't used to do computers. Imagine if you were Sears. How many products does Sears have? Do you know? Thousands.
A lot.
Yes, thousands of different products, right?
We still have monthly inventory. We get to go scan each individual.
Yeah, they want to know how much they have, don't they? Yeah. So they don't have stuff left over and they don't run out of things. Yeah. And the perpetual doesn't keep up. Yeah. So they're constantly, they're actually counting every month effectively, right? By scanning. Okay, got the idea? So they're trying to keep track of how much they've got. So, but is that periodic? Probably not. It's probably still perpetual, right?
But then they update.
And then they update it, yeah, for all the mistakes. Absolutely. Okay, so get the idea with this, you guys? But with periodic, I'd never know how much was stolen. I'd never know how much was lost. I just know what was left at the end. So I take my beginning plus my purchases, subtract the ending, and that must be what I sold. But there weren't computers, right? So if you had thousands of inventory items, would you want to keep track by hand how much came in and how much went out? Of course not. What if you're selling corn? Ears of corn. Still, if you're selling ears of corn. You think you put a barcode on every ear of corn? Keep track of everyone that comes in? What, out of the field? Come on, right? And then every one you sold? You can't do that, can you? So you have to estimate your inventory, right? They keep them in, somebody in the other class was from Ohio, corn silos. Something she said? Yeah, okay. Yeah, right? So, and you estimate how much is in there, because you know about how much it holds, right? So they'd still be using periodic, okay? In the old days, if you weren't selling Rolls Royces or diamonds or something that were really expensive, you wouldn't keep track on a perpetual basis of the inventory. If you're doing Rolls Royces, which you kind of like to keep track of which ones you had, which ones you sold, yeah, they're real expensive. What people would actually do is they'd have A inventories, B inventories, and C inventories. The A inventories were all the expensive stuff. They do perpetual records for that. Okay? Keep track of everything that comes in, everything that goes out, and how much they have. This is the most tedious job. No wonder accounting jobs have bad reputation. You imagine doing that on cards, right? You've seen those cards, the big ones, right? And they keep track of every item that came in and every item that went out for all their thousands of inventory items. Some companies do it. companies that are using periodic, lots of them. Agriculture, big time, right? Okay. Grains and wheat. I'm probably not going to put a barcode in each one, right? Keep track. Probably not going to do that. Okay, anyway. So got the idea with this, you guys? Which is better, internal control? Of course, perpetual is better. Which is cheaper? Well, actually, periodic might be cheaper. But now that we have all the scanners and we have computers, and it's gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. By the way, computers used to be unbelievably expensive. Only really rich companies had computers, right? Now you got phones that have more memory in them, more computing capacity than early computers did. So, anyway, okay. All right, so let's go back to what's FIFO, LIFO, and average then. What is FIFO? I cut you off. What is FIFO? Ask the question to cut you off. What's FIFO?
First in, first out.
First in, first out. Okay, now listen to that carefully. Which ones do we sell? The first ones, which means my beginning inventory gets sold first, right? And then my first purchase gets sold, and then my second purchase gets sold, and so on. If I have thousands of purchases, got the idea? Which ones would I still have? Think about that. Listen to this carefully. Which ones would you still have an ending inventory if you're first in, first out? The last ones you bought. That's it. Well, what do all companies do? Do they try to sell the old stuff first, or the new stuff first? The old. Everybody really tries to do FIFO. And that's really important to get here, and the author doesn't tell you, right? Nobody ever tells you. I'm telling you, right? Everybody really tries to do FIFO. The car dealer wants to get rid of last year's models before they start selling any of this year's, right? Okay? They really would like to, because otherwise they're never going to get rid of them. The dairy would like to sell the old milk before the new milk. What happened if you really use LIFO? Last in, first out. Okay, let's think about this. I'm selling the last ones that came in. I'm selling my most recent purchases, right? What am I keeping? I guess the oldest stuff, which would mean the beginning inventory, huh? I've been a dairy in business for 100 years. What do I have? 100-year-old quarts of milk sitting around? What would those look like? You think anybody's ever going to buy them? Or your bakery or something? Give me a break. Nobody does this, right? I did have one kid one time. I thought it was pretty good. They said, what about an antique dealer? It might work, huh? Antique dealers would like to sell the newer stuff before the older stuff. Yeah, maybe true. Okay? But everybody else, what's the deal? We want to be FIFO, really. Oh, wait a minute then. Why did an average, by the way, was computationally easier than either FIFO or LIFO. You could keep less record, right? Because you only had to keep track of the average moving forward instead of all the layers of each of these, all the different ones that you bought at different prices, right? Okay? So this was easier. That's why it evolved, okay? Not very many people use it anymore, unless they always have been and they just keep doing it because they never change. But this is just sort of an average of these two, okay? But it's still around. You gotta know what these are, okay? They look like. Anyway, so why does LIFO exist? Here's the deal. Congress, in its infinite wisdom, when they passed this law to save people taxes, the LIFO method, bunch of lawyers, right? How much do lawyers know about accounting? Usually not much. For some reason, maybe they thought everybody wouldn't use LIFO if they did this. There'd be a price of using LIFO. If costs are going up, what happens to your income if your LIFO? It goes down, right? Because cost of goods sold are the more expensive ones, right? Everybody agree? And the cheaper ones are in inventory. So your assets inventory is lower, and then your retained earnings is lower because your income's lower, right? Over the years, that can be a big number. It is a real big number. In fact, across the U.S. economy, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. Oh, but here's the deal. If your income's lower on your tax return, which it is, what happens to your taxes? You pay less. Do you ever have to pay it? Sure, if you ever sell the inventory. Hundreds of billions, you guys, in taxes not paid. Legitimately, legally, because Congress decided to give everybody this tax break, right? I always recommend it to my clients, use LIFO. But I'd also recommend this, because it saves you tax dollars. Costs are going up. Costs are going down if you do reverse. Okay? So here's the deal. Using LIFO, I save dollars now. But it's borrowing. Because what happens if the inventory starts going down in value? If I have to liquidate it, if I have to sell it all off, my product becomes obsolete or something. What happens? I have to sell it. But now I have to pay a whole bunch of taxes. Because when I sell it, even if the sales price has gone down, guess what happens? My costs are almost nothing if I've held that inventory for a long time, right? So the sales price is almost all profit on my tax return, and I have to pay the taxes. So right when your business has a downturn, typically, guess what? You'll owe a whole bunch of taxes. Isn't that lovely? So use LIFO if you ever have your own business, or you're managing a business, use LIFO to save the tax dollars now, but what do? Save it. Keep it, invest it, don't pay it out in dividends, right? Don't get it tied up so you can't use it, because you may have to pay those taxes later. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, just use your head about it, right? By the way, why would I rather pay taxes later instead of sooner? Let's say the federal government would loan you $1 million forever. If your inventory never goes down, they loan it to you forever. $1 million, of course, it's bigger every year, right? What would you do with $1 million? Take it and invest it and make money off of it and keep the money, right? Yeah, wouldn't you guys? And when we do time value of money, if I'm paying somebody back 20 years from now, $1 20 years from now instead of $1 now, it's much, much less. Much less. Wow. Right? So interest-free borrowing for the federal government, if I was willing to give you $1 million, you can't. And you can pay me back, I don't know, when you die. What do you think? Would you take it?
Absolutely.
You bet. Everybody would. So everybody does. So companies use this. Now here's the deal. Here's why LIFO exists for financial statement purposes. That's why it exists for tax purposes, because you can use it, right? Here's what they wrote in the law. If you want to use LIFO for tax return, you must use it for financial statements. That's it. So that's why. Does it make any sense for financial statements? No. Under International Financial Reporting Standards, you guys read about those a little bit in the book every once in a while, they mention them, right? LIFO is not allowed. You know why it's not allowed? Because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's only really tax law. Could we, oh, by the way, every single president we've had has wanted to get rid of LIFO since they put it in. Why would Obama like to get rid of this now? And George Bush before. Some things they can agree on, right? What's that? They collect all the taxes. It's billions of dollars, hundreds of billions. Would they like to get the money? Sure. But here's the deal. We don't have to get rid of LIFO for tax purposes. We probably never will, because once they have a big tax break, it kind of be disruptive to the economy now, right, to get rid of it, to have all the companies pay all the back taxes. If we could we get rid of LIFO, though, and keep LIFO rather for tax purposes and get rid of it for financial statement purposes? Yeah, we could use FIFO for financial statement purposes and LIFO for tax return purposes. We could change the law to be that. It'd be okay, and that might happen someday, right? If we ever adopt international financial reporting standards, it'll have to happen, and they're never going to compromise on that one. It's one of the hang-ups of us adopting it. By the way, we're the last major economy in the world that is not using international financial reporting standards. Everybody else accounts for things exactly the same way. We are the one that's different. Because we think we know better. Kind of. We're Americans, right? We even think we're Americans. The whole Western Hemisphere is the Americans, I'm sorry. But we're the Americans, right? I guess all the other people living in South America and Central America, Mexico and Canada, they're not really Americans, just us. It's bizarre, isn't it? Are we ever going to be forced into using international financial reporting standards? The answer is we already are. The New York and American Stock Exchange let people use either international financial reporting standards or U.S. GAAP. The SEC allows it. Why? Because we don't want everybody to go to European stock exchanges. Because it would be easier to have their stock traded there than on our stock exchange. We didn't want them to leave. So all of our stock exchanges once it's changed. It's just our Congress doesn't. Right? Do we want to let the French tell us how we're going to account for things in our political atmosphere in this country? No. So for a while, I guess we still won't. But so you might even see this disappear, and I'm making you learn about it now. But I want you to know what LIFO is, so you can use it in your business, right? Save the tax dollars. And I want you to know you need to save the money. Okay? And I want you to know what the impact is on the financial statements. Now, it gets even worse, though. You have to use LIFO for financial statement purposes and use it for the tax return. So lots and lots of companies do that. Vast majority, actually. Okay? But then what we do is we tell people in notes to the financial statements what income would have been if I had been using FIFO, and what inventory would have been if I'd always used it, and what retained earnings always would have been. So can financial analysts modify the statements from LIFO to FIFO really simply? Yeah, and most companies do that. So it's a little bit of a sham, okay? So you got the idea on this thing? It's weird, isn't it? So it's one of the very few examples where tax law dictates generally accepted accounting principles. Those of you that later take the CPA exam, don't say that. What you do say is that, don't say that tax law drove this. What you do say, and there's some truth to this, and the author mentions it, LIFO gives me a better number on the income statement because it gives me more recent costs, like a replacement cost on the income statement. It's kind of like bad debt expense and allowance for doubtful accounts when we were talking about that. You don't really get to have the number you want in bad debt expense and in allowance, do you? You get one of them where you want it to be, and the other one just falls out where it does, right? Just did that stuff. Okay, this is sort of the same thing. LIFO gives you a better number on the income statement, more recent costs. But what happens to the balance sheet? It gets worse and worse and worse and worse over time, doesn't it? Right? If there's a lot of inflation, or for that matter, deflation. That's another rub with LIFO. If there's deflation, you pay more taxes. So that could happen to you. Even though there's inflation overall in the economy, on your particular product, there could be deflation. Okay? All right. You guys are looking at me like, God, it's just way too much. Yeah, everything is. Everything is. Okay, anyway, so let's do this. Does anybody have the, I know you do, the quiz that you were using to get ready for the last quiz has an inventory problem on there. Let's take a look at that problem. Let's work through part of it, huh? We'll at least get through the periodicals. Okay. So again, FIFO is first in, first out, which means I sell the beginning inventory and then my first purchase, then my second purchase, and so on. What would I have left in inventory? This is really important. You're going to compute this for me. What am I going to have left in the ending inventory? The last purchase and the one before that and the one before that. Got the idea? So if there's thousands of them, that's what I'd be doing, right? Okay? What if it's LIFO? Last in, first out. I pretend I sold which ones? The last ones I bought. The most recent purchase, and I work my way backwards, right? But the ones I sold. Which ones would I still have left in my ending inventory? The oldest ones. My beginning inventory plus the first purchase plus the second purchase, whatever I needed to get the amount I have in ending inventory. That's it, you guys. It's really simple. And then the average is going to be somewhere in between. Okay? Now here's one that you're going to really like. FIFO. Perpetual or periodic. I said there were 6 methods. There's really only 5. Because FIFO, perpetual, and periodic will give you exactly the same answers for ending inventory and therefore cost of goods sold and therefore gross profit. Gross profit is just sales less cost of goods sold, right guys? So if you knew the sales and you knew the cost of goods sold, you could get gross profit pretty easy. You know how to do that. Okay, pretty simple. So if I asked you to do perpetual FIFO, what should you do? Calculate it using periodic method and write the answers down. If I ask for both, oh boy, write the answer down twice, right? Thank you, thank you. Periodic, why would I calculate using periodic? Because it's so much easier. Perpetual's harder. Why does it give you the same answer for FIFO? Because you're always selling the oldest stuff, so what'll always be in inventory? The newest. Why doesn't that work for LIFO? For LIFO, with periodic, you pretend you bought everything before you sold anything. So I might actually pretend I sold stuff that I haven't bought yet when I sold the stuff. It's bizarre. Ridiculous. Okay? But that's the way it works. Because I don't know when I bought things, and I don't know when I sold things. I just count the inventory, compute ending inventory, and compute cost of goods sold. Got the idea? You don't know what's happening in the meantime with periodic. With perpetual, I can't sell anything until after I already bought it. So I might sell some of the layers earlier. Okay? That'll make more sense after we go through examples. Okay? Good. You guys are thinking, God, I should have stayed in my dorm room. Anyway, okay. I'm not kidding, am I? Cheryl. Should be anywhere, yeah. Now let's give this a shot. Okay, so what do we know from this problem? Read off to me what we got. I gave you the beginning inventory, right? So you'd have that, right? From your records for the last year. Okay, what's in your inventory? How many units are in the inventory? Or beginning inventory? Ending last time, beginning this time. On that question on the quiz that does inventory. You got it?
16 units. And
16 units? Okay. So just so everybody can see the problem, if you don't have it with you. 16 units we have in beginning inventory at how much? $9. I think right away I would multiply those together. There's a layer of inventory, huh? What was my total inventory in dollars, you guys? What's 16 times 9? $144. Okay, then what happens? Oh, by the way, on perpetual, you have to keep these in order because it makes a difference. You can't sell something until you bought it, right? So I could have a purchase first or a sale first, couldn't I? In a real life? Actually, in real life, we have fewer purchases than we do sales. You think Sears actually purchases every item independently and then sells every... No. They buy a whole bunch of them, and then they sell one at a time for the most part, right? Yeah, okay. So far more sales than you do purchases, okay? But the computer could care less. In the little examples I gave you, I'll give you just a couple purchases and a couple sales so you can show me you know how to do this. What I want is not so much for you to be able to show me. I want you to understand the difference between these methods, right? So I'm having you crank on this a bit and think about it a lot, but I think you get a pretty good idea how inventories work, cost of goods sold work, and how the tax implications work on it. That's what we're trying for. Okay? So what happens first, a purchase or a sale?
Sale.
Happens to be a sale. Sale 1, I'll just put that on there. You can use the date or whatever. We'll keep them in order. How many units was it?
12.
How much did they cost? I don't know. Depends on the inventory method I use. Ah! Right? If I'm using perpetual, yes, it'd be 9. Okay, it has to be. Okay. But if I'm using LIFO periodic, it won't be. Or average. Oh! Then what happens next?
Purchase.
Purchase. The first purchase was how many units?
18 units, $10.
That's the second thing that happened, right? So I have a sale, then I have a purchase, and how much is that going to be? I can compute that, right? I know what my purchases cost me. I recorded them as purchases under the periodic method too. Okay? So then what happens? Sale 2, was that next?
Sale 2, yeah.
How many units?
19.
19 units. I don't know how much those cost either. It's going to be different for each of the 6 methods. Got it? Or at least 5 differences. LIFO, and periodic will be the same. Okay? Got it? And then I think I did another purchase, did I, in that problem?
Yeah.
So I can give you more. It doesn't matter. It's a little more computing. What's purchase 2?
17 units at 11.
Okay. How much did those cost? 187? No, it was. Does everybody agree with this? It's simple, right? Okay, now there are 2 ways you could do this. You can do it working straight from there, or if this helps you, this might be helpful. Let's do units of inventory and dollars of inventory. Okay? Here's one way you could approach it. Okay, just make sure you got it down. For the units, it's no big deal. I start with 16, don't I? How much did they cost total? I just calculated it. 144, right? Everybody agreeing with this? 16, 144? Okay? Then what happens? There's a sale. Sale 1, I do not know what it costs. That's what I'm going to try to figure out here. Okay? Sale 1 in units, though I know. It's 12, isn't it? Right, guys? How many units do I have right now? 14, I guess. Okay? Then what? Next thing is I buy 18, huh? Purchase 1 is 18 units. So I guess I'd have 22 at that point. Everybody agree? 4 plus 18? Just make it be common sense for yourself. I do know how much they cost, don't I? It was 180 in total. They're $10 each. Okay, I'm good. Okay, then what? Sale 2 happens. How many units? It's like 19. How many would you have left? 22 less 19 is 3, huh? Okay. I don't know what they cost. It depends on what method I'm using. So now we know what we're going to calculate, huh? It's this stuff. I want to know what those are. Okay? Because that's going to be credit inventory and debit cost of goods sold, really. Okay, if I'm using perpetual. And it's going to be my cost of goods sold even if I'm using periodic. I'll just wait until the end of the accounting period to figure it out. Okay, it'll be the same either way. All right, good. And then what happens? There's purchase 2, isn't there? How many did I buy? 17 units. That's going to make 20 ending inventory. Does everybody agree my ending inventory is 20 units? That's extremely nice to know. No matter which method I'm using, I'm going to value 20 units, okay? How many units did I sell, everybody? I guess I should put purchase 2 in here, I apologize. 187, cost 187, right? Purchase 2. Okay, so how many units did I sell? 12 and 19, 31. Everybody agree? So once you have that, what you could do is you could say, okay, well, let's just do cost of goods sold then. How does cost of goods sold work, you guys? Beginning inventory plus what? Purchases is what? What do we call that? What do we call it? Beginning inventory plus purchases. What I have plus what I buy is what is available. Available for sale. Available. Right? That's it. But I start with what I buy plus what I buy. And then if I subtract my ending inventory, what will I get? You know, what's available less the ending must be what I don't have anymore. Would you agree with that? What am I going to call that? Cost of goods sold. Oh, I can calculate cost of goods sold here. Okay, if I'm doing periodic or perpetual, it'll look exactly the same. Let's do it both for units, and for dollars, gang. So let's put it in here. How many units did you start with? 16. How many did you purchase? 18 plus 17. How many is that?
35.
35. How many is available if you had 16 to start with and you bought 35? 51. Everybody good? How many do I have in the end? 20. My ending inventory is 20, no matter which inventory method I use, right? My beginning is 16, my purchase is 35, my available is 51, my ending is 20, so how many did I sell? 31. No matter which method you use, I sold 31. Does everybody agree with this? Too easy to believe. What's my beginning inventory, no matter what? 144. By the way, it wouldn't really always be 144, because what would happen, we'd have a different ending inventory with different inventory methods each year, right? So the beginning would be different if they were different methods. But for my problems, I just make them the same. Okay? Keep it simple. Do you know how much the purchases cost?
Yeah.
Sure you do. It's 180 plus 187, isn't it, guys? These are 2 purchases. Or 3 or 1,000, right? Whatever it is. Okay? So what's 180 plus 187?
367.
So no matter which inventory method I'm using, how many are available in dollars? What did the 51 cost? So 144 plus 367. How much is that? 501 was it?
511.
511. Okay, $511. Okay, that $511 is, if that's how much is available, where does it have to be at the end of the year? Either in ending inventory or in cost of goods sold. Do you agree that ending inventory and cost of goods sold have to add up to 511? So if I have a different ending inventory, guess what? I'll have a different cost of goods sold. That's all we're going to do. So let's do the first 3 of them. We'll make it. Okay? What do we got? Let's do periodic, the easy. We're going to do the easy ones, and the next time we'll do perpetual. Periodic. Let's do FIFO first, guys. Here's the deal. Always calculate the inventory, not the cost of goods sold. And the reason is there might be thousands of purchases, but you only have a few inventory items left at the end of each period, right? You sold most of them. Okay, so it's far faster to do the ending inventory. Okay, so let's calculate it. How many units do we have in ending inventory, everybody? 20. Which ones? First in, first out. I sold these first, then these, and which ones did I keep? The most recent purchase. Everybody agree? So do you agree that we had 17 units at $11, and seeing as we already calculated it, that's $187? How many more units do I need to make 20, everybody? 3. 3 more units. How much did they cost? Go back to the next most recent purchase, right? So I'm picking up 17 here at 11, and then what do I want? Whoops. What do I want? Sum of that 18. Does everybody agree? You just go to the next most recent purchase. So here's the 2 most recent purchases. I only have a few purchases here, so it's harder to see it, but it's easier to compute, okay? So what do you think? Those 18 cost $10, but how many do I have left at the end of the year? Only 3 of them, right? I sold the other 15. That make sense? Okay, 3 at $10 is how much, everybody? $30. What's 187 plus 30? 217. That's my ending inventory. How much is cost of goods sold? This is unbelievably easy.
511 minus 217.
Yeah, it's 511 less the 217. Take your 217 ending inventory, subtract it from the 511 available, and what do you get? What's that number?
294.
294. So cost of goods sold is 294. Just like that. If you knew sales, you could subtract 294 from it and get gross profit, couldn't you? Okay? Let's try periodic LIFO. Which ones am I going to keep, everybody? What's going to change? The ending inventory and therefore the cost of goods sold. Which units do I keep? Last in, first out, I'm going to keep the old ones. So I bet we still have that beginning inventory of 16. What do you bet? 16 units at how much? $9. How much is that, everybody? 144. How many more units do I need to make 20? 4 more. Guess what? You go to the next purchase, and it happens to be the same $10 units, but of course there'd be 1,000 purchases in between. You got the idea? You go to the next most recent, or the next purchase, the first purchase of the year, right? And what do you have? $10 ones? How much is that? 40 bucks. What's ending inventory? Add them up. What is that? 184 instead of 217. What's that going to do if your ending inventory is only 184 instead of 217? It's going to give you more cost of goods sold. Less taxable income, less taxes. See why you use LIFO? Right? Yeah. It's also going to make the financial statement not look as good. And that, I think that's what Congress thought, was, well, you get the tax benefit, but it makes your statements not look as good. So maybe you won't use LIFO. Everybody in their right mind uses LIFO and tells people they're using LIFO to save taxes, right? Because a shareholder would be upset with you if you didn't use LIFO because you wouldn't save taxes. Just to look better in your financial statements, that'd be crazy, right? I don't want to look good in the financial statements. I want to be wealthy, right? Okay, so what's the deal here? How much is cost of goods sold? What's 511 less 184? 327. Say that's millions of dollars, guys. How much are you going to save in taxes, say if you're in a 30% tax bracket? 27 plus 6, isn't it? What's that? $33 million? Take 30% of that. Getting the idea? How much is that? About 10 million bucks. Savings in taxes forever if you don't deplete the inventory. Got the idea? Okay, for a long time. Do one more. This only takes a second. Weighted average. I know some of you have a class. Weighted average. What's the deal? What's the average, everybody? It's going to be the weighted average. We're not just going to take the average of 9, 10, and 11. Don't do that, right? What we want is the weighted average. So what do I want to calculate? How many units are available? 51. What did they cost? 511. Be sure and pick up the beginning inventory, right? I spent $511. Everybody agree to that? For how many units? 51, right? How much do they cost per unit? I think it's $10.02 approximately per unit. Everybody agree? Now, what's my ending inventory going to be? How many units do I have in ending inventory? 20? Everybody staying with me? What do they cost on average? $10.02. See, it's an average. How much is that? What's 20 times 10.02? Okay, we'll do cost of goods sold. 20 times 10.02? Anybody? 20 units at $10.02. Boy, our math skills are really something. $200.40. Is that what it is? Yeah. Sound right? Yeah. Okay, and then how many units? So this is going to be $200.40. Everybody agree? What's cost of goods sold? What's 511 less $200.40? 310.60. Is that what that is? Okay. Let's make sure we're right. How many units do we sell? How many was it, guys? 31 were sold, right? What's 31 units times $10.02? Is it about 310.60? Little rounding. If we're there math right, it is. It's easy, isn't it? Okay, perpetual's a little harder. Perpetual LIFO. By the way, the FIFO perpetual are these same two numbers, 217 and 294. Okay? But the moving average and the LIFO are a little tougher on perpetual. We'll do it next time. See you guys. Work, work, work. Thanks for showing up today. Braving the snow.